So before we begin this episode, we did have sort of a PSA that I really think we need to get out there.
2 things. First, don't be a cunt. Second, I'll explain why. Christians come on this channel. It'll happen.
Yep.
I don't care what you guys talk about, really. I don't care, if it's debate. Even if you start to be stupid and be like, you're a fucking idiot. That's fine. I'm okay with that. You're really bad at debating, but, whatever you want to do. But this comment, it's not really a toleration thing. I just think there's no place for it. Someone was a Christian and an atheist who I haven't had any interaction with at all started yelling at that Christian, which sometimes is expected with especially younger atheists. But then went and said, basically, I hope you kill yourself, and continued to be like, you basically have no reason to exist. That's not cool, because that's not what the channel is about. You can go to a lot of other atheist channels and have that be okay, but this is more about, we talk about it, and then you talk about it, and then everybody gets to talk about the Bible and why it's wrong, but just shutting down the conversation like that is just stupid. So,
yeah. Anyway,
with
that lovely positivity out of the way, theme song.
La 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 la. Here we go. It's the Bible reloaded, logic explosion, like Jesus and Moses, but it's Hugo and Jake. The Bible is jaded, and most of it taken, so get educated with Hugo and Jake. Pull up you and stop what you're doing. It's Bible reloaded time. They call it debated, the theists will hate it, like talking to taken, but it's Hugo and Jake. So on with the show then, it's not candy coated, it's the Bible reloaded with Hugo and Jake.
So, hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I am Jake.
And this week we come to yet another bookmark Bible story.
Yay.
And that is the story of David and Goliath.
Yeah. We actually have done sort of this before with a 7 or 8 panel tiny book that we did like a year ago.
Yeah, but that doesn't really count,
That
does
was
it?
fun. No, not even close.
The children's book really cleared out a lot of the contradictions in the Bible, so we're going to get to the real business.
Oh, business time episode. Remember that song? It's business time. You know when I'm down in my socks, it's stuff for business. That's why they call them business socks. Ooh. That's the Flight of the Conchords.
Okay, well, that's good. So, if you'll remember last time, we were introduced to David for the first time, as was Saul, actually, which will be important later.
Yeah.
David was found because Saul was having, as the Bible says, dark spirits, evil demons sent by God, it says.
Yeah, basically depression, and David was a music therapist. He played the lyre.
Yeah.
Which is like a tiny harp.
Yep, so today we begin with David and Goliath in 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now the Philistines gathered their forces for war and assembled at Soka in Judah. They pitched camp at Ephes Dammim, between Soka and Azekah. Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the valley of Elah and drew their battle line between the Philistines. The Philistines occupied one hill and the Israelites another, with the valley in between them. So,
and why is this happening?
War.
Because.
The war that they've won several times, I guess, but I guess those are just battles in one war. They're not very clear. So it's a battlefield, there's a valley in between, mountain on one side, mountain on another side, like a game of Risk, but if it were for 4-year-olds.
Yeah, or like that game where you have the cannons and you have to change their pitch and then you shoot cannons at each other.
Yeah, it's like that.
What's that called?
I don't know what it's called.
Probably cannon shoot.
Maybe. Verse 4. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span, and that is roughly 9.5 feet tall.
Yeah, that's too much. That's closer to 9 3/4 actually. But yeah, people, people get kind of tall.
Yeah, it's physically possible to become this tall with genetic mutations. There have been people that have been this tall. Here are some pictures of them. But the thing is, they would make terrible warriors for a couple reasons.
Awful warriors.
Your extremities are too far away from your heart, so it has to pump much harder to get the blood where it needs to go, and this causes for defects of the heart. It causes problems. A lot of these people die fairly young relative to normal people.
And it turns out murdering people for your occupation is strenuous.
Yeah.
Also, your insides will be fucked up, so often they have digestive issues and bone problems because their bones are growing at such a rapid pace. Now, That's not a reason to discredit that a Goliath may have existed. That is not a reason. We're just saying unlikely.
He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. Man, shekels as a weight would be just the worst, that you have to be like, how much is it? Like 5,000, man.
Yeah.
And that's, what is that?
About 125 pounds, or for our Euro friends, 58 kilos. So a pretty heavy piece of equipment.
On his leg he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod, you know, all those weaver rods. And its iron point weighed 600 shekels. His shield bearer went ahead of him. Man, being his shield bearer would probably suck so much.
Yeah, since he's the champion.
Yeah, he's a normal-sized person having to carry giant-sized things.
So basically the idea we're getting, it's very, very similar to the scene you see in, like, the Iliad, where they call champions out, and Achilles goes out and he murders the big guy.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now we don't have to fight anymore because you clearly have the best champion, and now we've settled this. Very, very similar to this story, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I find it difficult to believe that in a real war you would decide a battle based on two people fighting.
I don't know a lot about ancient warfare, but I haven't heard about this before. Maybe someone out there knows if that was a practice that they actually used, but it sounds very storybook/Hollywood to me. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem practical.
Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me." That's what Goliath sounded like. That's a fact. He spoke English and everything.
Exactly.
"If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistine said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other."
Morphing sort of into a Vader without the mask.
Yeah, he got a little British at the end, just a little bit. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified.
No! He suggested this plan and now we have to follow it. There's no other options. We couldn't say yes and then trick them. We couldn't just say no and full-out warfare because seemingly we have more numbers and have won more battles. No. This guy suggested this term. We should do it. Therefore, making me worried.
And I know they've mentioned archers before.
Yeah.
Couldn't they just get a guy to shoot an arrow at him? There's got to be holes in the armor somewhere. Is he wearing the armor all the time? If not, shoot him in the face.
I
mean, I'm not saying that... Of course, it's not an honorable way to win the fight, but they're already... The Israelites have done far worse things. Let's say that.
Yeah. Remember when they killed all of Egypt's babies?
Remember when they killed all the babies of everyone else they came across?
Yeah.
Good times. Verse 12. Now David was the son of an Ephrathite named Jesse, who was from Bethlehem in Judah. Jesse had 8 sons, and in Saul's time he was very old. See, this is interesting, because this is the second time we've been introduced to David and his family and his father Jesse. If you'll remember, in the previous episode, we were introduced to him because Saul was looking for someone to help him with his problem, the evil spirits thing, the depression, so to speak. And he had David come and play a lyre, which is kind of like a harp, for him to try and relieve him feeling like shit, basically. But here we're being introduced to him again as if we never heard of him before.
Right.
David was the youngest. The 3 oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend to his father's sheep at Bethlehem. So the other brothers are basically in the army. They're at the war, and David goes back and forth. He's not really a warrior at this point, at least according to this chapter, because again, in the previous chapter, he was described as a warrior.
Yeah.
Even though that's going to go against what we're going to hear in just about a minute here, but he's not really a soldier at this point. For 40 days the Philistines came forward every morning and evening and took his stand. Again, 40 days is the common phrase in the Bible. Now Jesse said to his son David, "Take this ephah of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread for your brothers and hurry to their camp." That's the thing we miss about having wars at home. You can't just bring your brothers food on the front lines. "Take along these 10 cheeses to the commander of their unit."
Oh, what a good gift. I want 10 cheeses.
Me too.
You guys should send me 10 cheeses.
Exactly 10. If there's more than 10, we're going to be mad.
I'm going to be so upset.
"See how your brothers are, and bring back some assurance from them. They are with Saul and all the men of Israel in the valley of Elah, fighting against the Philistines. And by fighting, I mean They're at a stalemate because one really tall guy is threatening them. Early in the morning, David left the flock in the care of a shepherd, loaded up and set out as Jesse had directed. He reached the camp as the army was going out to its battle positions, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines were drawing up their lines facing each other, even though they said they had drawn the lines already, but okay. David left his things with the keeper of supplies. You know, the keeper of supplies.
What's that guy's story?
He keeps supplies.
He just keeps them?
Yeah. David ran to the battle lines and asked his brothers how they were. As he was talking to them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his line and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it.
His usual defiance. Fuck you guys!
Whenever the Israelites saw the man, they all fled from him in great fear. Man, they're the worst warriors. Why are they just the worst?
He's just tall. He's not fucking amazing. He's just tall.
I know. I'm aware. Apparently they're not aware.
LeBron James is only 6'8", and he could kick the shit out of Goliath. Fact. Probably due to better nutrition and intense physical training, but still.
Now the Israelites had been saying, "Do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. Seriously, guys, why won't they just let us kill them all?
Have you seen how big he is, though? He's like fucking 9 feet tall.
Why won't they just let us kill him? I don't understand.
Look at how many shekels he's wearing at once.
I didn't sign up for the army to fight people." The king will give great wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give his daughter in marriage and will exempt his family from taxes in Israel.
Ooh, that's nice. Yeah. That's a better deal than our soldiers get.
David asked the men standing near him, what will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who was the uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?
Why? Okay, I know that they assume he's uncircumcised.
He could have been in a giant penis accident.
Can you tell from like a distance if a dude has a foreskin? Maybe they were thicker back then. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's a nuance of foreskins I'm not aware of.
Israelites just have a penile fixation. It's weird.
So do I.
So phallic. They repeated to him what they had been saying and told him this is what will be done to the man who kills him. When Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger at him and asked, "Why have you come down here? And with whom do you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know how conceited you are, and how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle." Whoa, older brother.
Chill, older Bree.
I don't know why this section is even in the story, because it has no bearing on anything that happens. It just seems out of nowhere and doesn't make sense.
Is it just like a character development? It's like throwaway line?
Maybe it's to show how, maybe they're trying to say this is how people see David now, and this is how they see him after, maybe, but it's just the brother, so it's not like it's...
Yeah, that could be easy sibling rivalry. It's like not even important
maybe
or interesting.
I don't know. I don't understand some of the things in the Bible sometimes.
Also, why wouldn't he want them to win the battle because of David?
I don't know, man.
Fuck you, man.
"Now what have I done?" said David. "Can't I even speak?"
Ooh, snap, bro.
I feel like I could see Hayden Christensen delivering that line.
In exactly the monotone delivery you gave.
Yeah. He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter, and the men answered him as before. So now 3 times David has asked the same exact question about what happens if someone kills Goliath. I don't know.
Clearly a kid.
I don't know why he needed to ask 3 times. What David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul sent for him.
Wait, why?
Yeah, David was just asking questions. I don't know why someone was like, "This kid's asking questions, Saul." David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of the Philistines. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth."
Wait a second, so David's not a warrior?
Yeah, because in the last chapter, he was described as a warrior, which you would expect if that was written way after the fact and someone was already aware of the David and Goliath story and the conquests that occurred after. But originally, he shouldn't be seen as a warrior at this point, yet before he was described as such. It's one of those things in the Bible that shows up on lists of contradictions. But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God." So David was killing lions and shit? That's impressive.
Were both the bears and lions uncircumcised? Because if they weren't, it doesn't count as training.
And apparently trying to eat a lamb, like a lion would, is defying the armies of the living God. Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord will be with you." Then Saul dressed David in his own tunic, put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened his sword over the tunic and tried to walk around because he was not used to them. "I cannot go in these," he said to Saul, "because I am not used to them." Also because presumably there's a size difference, as is shown in many movies and stuff about the event.
Yeah.
So he took them off. This is interesting too. In the Bible it says he took off the armor. For some reason, Renaissance artists decided to take this as David stripped down naked and fought Goliath naked.
He had his own clothes.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying. That's
know.
why, if you ever see a Renaissance depiction of David, for instance, the statue of David by Michelangelo, which is very famous.
My second most favorite. Donatello, my favorite one.
That is of the biblical David, and the reason he's naked is because, for some reason in the Renaissance, one of the ways you would show it's David is he's naked, because for some reason they assumed him taking off the armor meant he was completely naked. You see this a lot. Any depiction of David usually
in
is
varying
naked.
ages. Like the Donatello one I mentioned, he has a hat on, so it's like he kept the bronze hat, it's like taking the rest off though. He has long hair, and he's very androgynous, and it's I don't know.
Man, Renaissance sculptors were just on point.
I could talk about Renaissance and the art for like 8 hours straight, we'd lose every subscriber.
I'll give the Bible one thing. It inspired a lot of beautiful Renaissance art.
Oh, man.
Verse 40. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in his pouch of his shepherd's bag, and with his sling in his hand approached the Philistine. Meanwhile, the Philistine, with his shield-bearer in front of him, because that's where you want to keep a shield-bearer, I guess,
Right.
kept coming closer to David. He looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome. He was glowing with handsome? That's a weird wording. And he despised him. He said to David, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" Solid.
Oh, ancient trash talk.
And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Of course, we're not going to mention those gods, because that's not nearly as important as Yahweh, haha. "Come here," he asked, "and I'll give your flesh to the birds and wild animals." Another good Schwarzenegger line. David said to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." Now think about this. It also said Goliath said something about his god, but if this were written from the Philistines' point of view, they would have gone into detail about what Goliath said, and would have just said, "And David cursed him in the name of Yahweh," and then they wouldn't mention anything. It's just interesting to look at it that way. "This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands. I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give you the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel."
Whoa, why do you can't use his comeback for your comeback, though. That's like a rapper rhyming the same 2 words. It's uncool.
"All those gathered here will know that it is not by my sword or spear the Lord saves. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." As the Philistines moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him.
Okay, so they're setting up the scene as if, obviously, David is the underdog here. He is the one who is supposed to, traditionally, lose this fight, if only because of his youth and inexperience, and Goliath's size, presumably. But here's the thing. A sling is so much better if used accurately, which it seems like he is because he prefers it. If it's better than a sword. It has range, and the velocity is such that it could kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not really at a disadvantage. In fact, he's better because he can get at distance, is not threatened by the sword whatsoever, and can shoot at least 5 rocks.
As the Philistine moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead and he fell face down onto the ground. So, presumably, he was hit in the forehead. This either killed him or it knocked him out. This is important in a couple lines. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. So there it says that's what killed him. So we'll assume the rock to the forehead killed him, at least for now.
Right.
David ran and stood over him. He took hold of the Philistine's sword and drew it from its sheath. After he killed him, he cut off his head with a sword. So he was dead, and presumably he was dead, I guess. They didn't, check his pulse, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then he took his own sword, which, man, I'm impressed that David could carry Goliath's sword. You assume it would be huge.
Right.
And then he cut off his head.
In the King James, though, it's worded a little differently, and it's really, really vague as to when he was killed, because it says he took off his... it says he took the sword and then it killed him, but it also mentions that he kills him when he hits him with the stone. So, it's not really that big a deal, but just so you guys know, there is some contention on whether or not
the stone killed him.
Or the sword killed
Yeah.
him. So, whatever you want to do with that.
When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. Man, battles are hinged on one person in these fucking stories. It's always one. The men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. Their dead were strewn along the Sharaim road to Gath and Ekron. When the Israelites returned from chasing the Philistines, they plundered their camp.
Bitch.
David took the Philistines' head and brought it to Jerusalem, which is gross. That's super gross.
He kept that for a while.
He put the Philistines' weapon in his own tent. As Saul watched David going out to meet the Philistines, he said to Abner, commander of his army, Abner, whose son is that young man?
What?
Yeah, so we need to touch on this. In this chapter, it's saying that Saul has no idea who David is at this point, even though in the previous chapter it went into great detail that Saul had met David, and David lived in his house and helped treat his moods, whatever, with his lyre, the harp thing.
That's fucking... He met him.
Yeah.
And so had long-term exposure.
So again, with the biblical contradictions, that's a pretty big one, actually.
Yeah.
And we'll get into more of that in the next episode, too. But for now, let's finish this episode
The
off.
thing about Saul is, everything about him is contradictory, it seems.
Yeah.
Even his death.
Mm-hmm. Abner replied, as surely as you live, your majesty, I don't know. The king said, find out whose son this young man is. As soon as David returned from killing the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul, with David still holding the Philistine's head. Ew.
Okay.
Whose son are you, young man? Saul asked him. David said, I am the son of your servant Jesse at Bethlehem.
Presumably following with, you fucking weirdo, I live in your house.
But whatever, that's enough for this episode.
Yep.
That's the story of David and Goliath.
It is.
And next time we're going to get into Saul trying to kill David, which is sinister? I don't know what I would call it.
I don't know. I think it's just fun.
Just so you guys know, we have another channel that's open right now.
Unpopular Culture. Click the thing that's on your screen. Click it.
Still probably no videos on there. But,
Click it.
But pre-subscribe. We're going to be doing movie reviews, TV show reviews, Let's Plays, stuff about Doctor Who, stuff about Pokemon, stuff about Goosebumps, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Click that link.
Yeah. It's going to be up very, very soon. We're almost done with our pre-setup, so good to go.
Well, if you want to help support us, you can always do so on Patreon.
Yes.
We're almost to our $500 goal. We are so close.
We can make a living off of this forever.
Also, some people, we're still trying to get in contact with you about
T-shirts.
About sending information and stuff and the t-shirt sizes. Make sure you get on there and try and message us. We've tried to message you. Please do so, or we can't send it to you.
And then we feel like we ripped you off.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
And even if you're just like, oh, I don't really want anything, which you might, I don't know why you would, but if that's how you feel, tell us so we can check you off the list and don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
If you want, you can follow us on Twitter at Bible Reloaded.
Or you can follow Hugo at Hugo Reloaded.
I think that's it.
That's it, right?
So thanks everyone for watching. Until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been the Bible Reloaded. And next week, Jake and I fly to LA to thwart terrorists who are really just trying to rob a vault. Alan Rickman!